This outfit doesn't know how to hide away. There's no sensual flower like yours. Or you are so when you walk into the room, I'm not feeling you're not feeling all that you need watching to like turn the TV on me for just a second, but this is enough for that. Okay, I know. It's like, or it's like I'm hearing it. Yeah, it's like you have to. Yeah, okay. How do you feel completely like a different person? Like, I really was looking at her, I'm like, oh, is that what you like to do that? I don't know. Yeah. I have a little thing. Like, it's so special and I was learning a million more ways to express you guys, but so much I'm nugget from each one. I knew that is like completing whole narrative. Bobby, this is for you because you're giving me such a beautiful home and I hope that when you go to your home, anything yours. Jonathan, we currently have some kinds of platforms like Coke, others, and for a little bit for the activists too. This is for you. I think you saw it me things that like those who are closest to me have not seen so fast. It's just scary, but it was so enlightening. And I really think of speak with yourself. I really want to start something. Feel proud of that. Like seeing it now as a gift and special. And so the next time you make a meal, I hope you that you guys. Thank you.
We hope for your future that you can see and celebrate the beauty that you have the way that everyone around you will just like it's time to celebrate.
I saw that.
Yeah.
You feel like you're prepared?
I mean, yeah, but I also don't want you to.
HSA today? Nope. Haywood?
Now, if I ever again. So like. Yeah. Yeah, because of it. Okay.
Somebody texted me, why would I be for doing this?
No, I, you know, I heard.
And I feel really free.
Okay, hello. Let's wait a few more minutes for a few more people. There were, yeah, at least 10 more people who registered, so.
Sure. Jacob sends his apologies. He's traveling for work today, but
Okay, sure.
yeah, he he couldn't be.
Yeah, we just set a time that worked for.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, Aaron's parents I mentioned, but they're also busy, so.
Right.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Joakim.
Joakim.
Hi, Biden.
I like your frames.
Oh, thank you. New ones.
Okay,
How are you?
yeah. All right, well, I know more people are going to come, but I'm going to get started. First, I just wanted, before we really get started, I wanted to hold the space for just seeing faces that we haven't seen in a long time. I know that it's awkward to and tragic to come together for Aaron, but I want to just leave a little space for that. I just realized that it's been 10 years since Hannah and I left Oxford. And I know not everyone, I'm sure you've seen each other since then, but it's just, I knew it would be nice to see everyone with this unfortunate news. So I don't know if Gaston or Miriam are there, not to put you on the spot, but it'd be great to see you. Not only for me, I think, but just for everyone, if you can. I know you can't always if you're driving. Thank you, etc. It just helps to give a little more presence. So I thought I would start with just a typical Psalm 23, and then just leave space for everyone to tell a little story, just a memory, maybe a bracha, blessing of comfort to Aaron's family, and anything else you're feeling about it. I know it was very just took the air out of all of us when we all heard at different times. So yeah. Mizmor David, Adonai Roi Lo Echsar. Adonai is my shepherd, I shall not want. Binot Desher Yarbitzeni. God gives me repose in green meadows. Almi Menucha Yinahaleni, and guides me over calm waters. Nafshi Yeshovi Yanchin V'Maglei Tzedek L'Ma'an Shemo. God will revive my spirit and direct me on the right path, for that is God's way. Gam ki elech v'geit salmavet lo irara ki ata imadi. Though I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no harm, for you are at my side. Shifta ha'uim shantecha hima yirachamuni. Your staff and your rod comfort me. Taruch lefanei shulchan neged sorai. You prepare a banquet for me in the presence of my foes. Yeshanta v'Hashem and Roshi kosi rivaya. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Achto v'chesed yerdefuni kol yemei chayai. Surely goodness and kindness will be my portion all the days of my life. Yeshavti b'beit Adonai li'orech yamim. And I shall dwell in the house of Adonai forever. So I'll just begin a little bit with how I first met Aaron. He had already been in Oxford for a while when Hannah and I came to interview. And Hannah will be along in a little bit. I'm gonna let people in as I talk. He was sort of an established person, and we were the third chaplain couple to interview. And immediately he was very Britishly kind. That is to say, there was no hugging, there was no extreme emotion of our presence there. But very immediately he was extremely welcoming into the community. He walked us to shul the first Friday night of the interview weekend. And despite all of the lovely people in Oxford and the lovely students, and all of those interviews can be very daunting and can be very stressful, but Aaron has a very good way of walking us through that moment. And obviously Aaron, very brilliant person, and would often find a place to respectfully comment on what I was saying in different places, but always with an idea that we were equals in that way. Never patronizing me, never feeling talked down to, and just a great person to have in our home and have in our community. There's a lot more I could say, but I want to leave it to some people here. And it says I'm recording, and so I'll send it out to others. Thank you for his parents.
Well, I guess say something. I mean, can you hear me?
Mhm.
Okay. I don't know. It's like I always think of Aaron as like somebody who's just like he's like a permanent fixture or something like that. And so it's so surprising to think of him as like no longer being here. I guess I just like have a lot of really fond memories of spending like Shabbat afternoons at Aaron's house, that he was always very welcoming. Like he had people over, he did all the cooking. He like was very, I don't know, he went out of his way. Yeah. And I suppose also I often think of like how he when he like led davening and how he did it in like a certain way that I thought was very kind of like sort of quiet but serious, but also sort of tuneful. That I think was really lovely. And I still think of like certain like tunes and everything that that he used. So those are just a couple of them.
Yeah. He was very specific about what is the prayer? There was one part of Kabbalat Shabbat, and I can't recall it right now. When he would only allow people, or he wished people would only do it twice. And I'll think of it later.
I'll say something.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I don't know if everyone knows too, but
I'm a senior research fellow at Jesus, and my first encounter with Aaron was at the interview when he was applying for the JRF.
Mhm.
And I hope none of you were candidates as well, because I'm going to tell you he stood out far and away as the person who was going to get the job. His brilliance, his modesty, the way that he handled conceptual matters as well as detail marked him out as a brilliant historian. And after that, we both knew we were Jewish, but we never met and talked about being Jewish. We talked about corruption in the 17th century. We talked about all different aspects of history at the many social occasions that were on at Jesus. And I knew I missed him first when he left for London. And there is a real hole in the sense of him not being with us anymore, because he was not just on the road to being a really great historian. I mean,
Mhm.
everybody talks about people who have died and how brilliant they were, but he was genuinely a real scholar. But it's also, he was such a nice guy. I mean, there was not the whole time I knew him, and I doubt it changed, there wasn't a smither of arrogance about him. He was a genuinely nice person who was all-rounded, great fun to be with. He's a real loss to, I feel for his family, obviously, but he's a real loss to everybody that encountered him.
Yes, sir.
Maybe I will elaborate a little bit. So first, I was really shocked when I got the email originally from Rachel, and then I saw by then your post on Facebook. Because although I personally haven't been in touch with him since Oxford, which is quite some years, he, in my imaginary brain, remains part of our Shabbat band. And I think the people who turn up this evening really reflect that. We met for many years, every Shabbat at the shul. We were invited a number of times, hosted at his place. He put time and effort in cooking the famous cholent, eventually fed his flatmate a number of times, I'm sure, over the years. These are good memories of Aaron. The first time I entered this flat for a Shabbat invitation, I was still a young master student, I think, at the time, and I was really impressed by his library and the style of his home, really reflecting his academic stand. He was a living history book. I remember going out really impressed and inspired by the profile of Aaron at the time. These are some of the memories from the time we had together back in Oxford.
Shall I go, maybe?
Thank you.
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Daniel, for giving us this opportunity. And obviously, despite the sad circumstances, good to see everyone. I don't know if you remember me, so many years. I used to hang around a little bit. I was older than you, because you were most of you undergrads. Maybe Joachim was doing his PhD, I don't remember, but I was doing my PhD at the time. But yeah, I mean, I think I echo what everyone says, is like in a place like Oxford where everyone is so amazing, to have someone like Aaron who stood out, who was, like the Gadol Hador, so to speak. And I have very fond memories. I mean, I was at the same time, you may not believe me, but I was really shocked in the sense that I was a kind of a secret admirer of his work, and I have been following him a little bit. He didn't know, but this is the thing. I had moved to London a few years ago. I'm living in London now, and I wanted. It came to me a few months ago. I wanted to reconnect with him, to get in touch, send him an email, and this was like somebody just beat me in the face, kicked me in the teeth. But I remember very fondly trying to seek him out at shuls, anywhere, just to hear him talking. I mean, he as you know, he was an historian, but one of his areas of expertise was economics, in the 16th, 17th, 18th century Europe, and the Atlantic. But I was trained as an economist, so, I could really, really, really appreciate his scholarly analysis, his depth, like it was just incredible. I mean, you all went through that experience, and just to share just one very brief memento is I remember that one year I think he was Hatan Bereshit for Simchat Torah, and I happened to be at OJC at that time, and somehow I got recruited into lifting him in the chair. So I have that memory of a joyful moment, but physically a bit painful for me. I'm not that strong, but I cherish his memory. Like, I can't believe what happened, but at the same time, I agree with everybody. He was going to be one of the greatest in his field, and he was. I was following his career a little bit. He was, but I'll keep everything about him, like his kindness, his humility. I agree with everything. That's exactly who he was. Mensch, complete mensch.
Maybe if I can say something, if that's okay. Just really wanted to echo what everyone has said. It did come as an enormous shock, and it's really nice to have this opportunity to say something about him and to mark it in some way. It's wonderful listening to what everybody said, because I really kind of feel that is the essence of Aaron Grahm, all the kind of adjectives that people use. Like, I remember him as being, such a calm and gracious person, like quiet and thoughtful, but also always with something clever and funny to say, like always with a smile on his face, as if he had something really witty to tell you, but never at anyone else's expense. It would just be something really hilariously thought of and really apt for the moment. And that's how I remember him from Oxford. But also Simon and I ran into him much more recently. I think his parents live in Edgware, and that's where Simon and I were, I think maybe during Pesach, during COVID, and we ran into him in the park. And all those years later, he was exactly the same. And it was such a lovely moment, just a complete surprise to run into him. And it was just really great, as you say, to kind of like reconnect with people that you've lost touch with. So I think having seen him kind of relatively recently, it just came as so much more of a shock that he's not here anymore.
Okay.
So, can you guys hear me, by the way? Sometimes I have issues with my mic. Okay.
Yeah, a little louder.
Aaron was one of the first people I met in Oxford. Being a Brooksy, starting a few weeks earlier than actual Oxonians. There were only really grad students around at the time. And straight away, as soon as I met Aaron, I realized this guy is levels above what other people could be. Not only the fact he could have a conversation about anything and any time, like Miriam just said, he always had quips and things to say and never really made people feel bad. And at the same time, always spoke his mind. And if he had thoughts about something you were doing, he would let you know. I think the thing I can sum up most about Aaron is the fact that in Settlers of Catan, we named a strategy after him, the Aaron Grahm strategy. And I think that just sums up how much a part of our experience during the years that we lived in Oxford that he was. It wouldn't have been the same without his input, our interactions, and yeah, it's just really sad to think that there's no more of that. So.
I don't remember, what was that, just to get all the, what was the strategy?
Buy all the dev cards.
Yeah, that's what I
Just
thought.
buy all the dev cards and annoy everyone else and just troll them and buy dev cards.
And it was
And it's
Anna
so-
Bakoach, I just realized. He would get very upset when people would say Anna Bakoach more than a little tefillah after Lechadodi. He'd get very upset if people did more than 2 verses of it. Anyway. Yeah.
So what people have been saying about Aaron is kind of really echoed in my memories of him. But not only was he, initially come across as very nice, friendly, kind, unassuming sort of guy, but he also had a lot of depth to him. He had a very strong and very interesting relationship with his Judaism. I have very fond memories of him leading services on a Friday night. I think I actually learned a lot of tunes from him. And I remember also on Friday nights, having kind of some very lively discussions in a group and him taking part. Something also I want to make, because Miriam mentioned his sense of humor, and one of the main memories I actually have of Aaron is of him and Simon Gordon quoting Blackadder to each other, and just like having entire conversations that were literally just Blackadder quotes. And I think that's really kind of important to remember that he did have this quite dry but really funny sense of humor, and he was just a really big and really strong personality in a lot of ways. And yeah, it's as everyone's saying, it's really hard to believe he's not here anymore, and it was absolutely horrible to hear the news. And I hope those who were close to him have some kind of comfort in the happy memories of him.
I know a few more people are signing on in about 10 minutes. I don't know. We could do one more thing, but did you want to tell your story, Hannah? Wow, it's such a good story. Okay, all right, fine. So just I would do it at the end, but I'll do it now. And then which is an El Male prayer. El Male Rachamim Shochein Bameromim Hametzei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei HaShechina B'ma'alot Kiddushim V'Tuharim Kizohar Higia Mazhirim L'nishmat Avraham Yitzchak Ben Chaim Hirsch Shalach L'Olamam Bavor Shenachni Matulim Askrat Nishmato Ana Balarachamim Nasre B'Seder Kenefecha L'Olamim Osor V'Srachim Et Nishmato Adonai Unachlezo Yenucha B'Shalom Al Mishkavo V'Nomar Amen. Exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure, the soul of our friend Aaron Grahm, who has gone to his eternal home. Merciful one, we ask that he be remembered in perfect peace in your tender embrace, and his memory endures as inspiration for commitment to his ideals. May his soul be bound up in the bond of life. May he rest in peace, and let us say Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. I do want to try to just hold this together for a little bit. I know at least Simon and maybe Isaac was coming on in a few minutes. So if you have a funnier story, just not necessarily you want to mention, that's okay too.
I'll just mention, it's no mystery about the story. There's not
Fine, I'm
much to
sorry.
it. But basically, just similar. I wasn't very close to Aaron, but he was one of the first people to really welcome us there, and he kind of felt like, someone who was. He was just very supportive and always friendly and helpful. But he was the first person I ever met who used the term orthopractice. I had never known about such a thing before, and I thought it was really interesting. And I also really enjoyed when he would lead davening. And you know, I'm just so sorry to hear about his loss, and for all of those who are close to him, and for all of us. And yeah, thanks for coming, and Rachel, thank you for letting us know.
Here, Simon actually let me know originally.
Did anyone go to his shiva or any of the?
I'm also not sure what he was. He said he passed from a very quick illness, but I'm not sure what actually happened either. If anyone knows. Yeah, well, I'll tell the story then. So it's funny more for us than for Aaron, but it kind of talks about what I mentioned before about his willingness to like be there very kindly. So Hannah and I obviously did a lot of cooking for large amounts of people. We didn't really know what we were doing most of the time. We got into a certain pace about it, but it was often we were trying to do like a nice meal, but often that meant that it would be less food sometimes, or we have a hard time gauging how many people would actually come, and often it would be more than we expected. So we were once concerned, I think it was a grad meal. I don't know any grads that happened to be there, but we did think maybe this was underfed a little bit. So, and we never knew that no one was going to would have told us that, no one would have mentioned. But we did think Aaron might be someone who could very compassionately give us an honest answer. And we did ask him, and he said, no, not really, but it was very lovely to be. And that was Aaron.
I learned a lot of British humor, I think, from Aaron, meaning a lot of sarcasm, but always very funny. And
right, I learned the difference of American and British comedy from him, which is that it is very much about being negative and talking down about oneself and hating oneself, and how that's funny somehow. I don't know if people. Right, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's really nice to see all your faces, and I'm sorry it's under these circumstances, but. Hi, Simon.
Hi, sorry I'm late.
No, that's okay. Nice to see you. I know it's we picked this time. Obviously, a lot of people couldn't come. We're kind of nearing sort of the end, the natural end of it, but I knew you'd be on late, so thank you for letting me know. And I am recording it, so and giving it to his parents, who also couldn't be here. So no pressure, but if you had any memory or idea you wanted to share, and if you don't, I'll just cut that part out.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I have plenty of memories. I mean, when I started at Oxford, Aaron was already a master's student. So he was very much an established part of the kind of core group at JSOC. Made a huge difference to me kind of joining that and being integrated into it. I have a lot of fond memories, not only of kind of the dinners and lunches over Shabbat with that group at the OJC, but also being hosted by Aaron personally, you know, in his flat. He was a very good cook and exceptionally welcoming, but also, you know, got a sense of what he was like as a scholar. I think when you start as an undergraduate, you know, not quite sure, there's an element of transition from being at school to being at university in terms of the on the academic side, and I think Aaron provided an example of how to approach academia. I always got a sense from him as how, you know, it wasn't just a question of intellect, but it was a question of rigor. I felt you could, when you had a discussion with him, not just about his work, but about other things, the extent to which he thoroughly analysed a question, the evidence that he was willing to bring to bear, when I would make kind of flippant assertions about things, which is, you know, I would guess the typical way an Oxford undergraduate approaches any essay, he was quick to kind of temper that. I thought he was you know, in that sense, he was kind of paradigmatic in his approach to scholarship. That came across in his social interactions. I felt that he was part of the group of people at Oxford who helped kind of stretch the newcomers intellectually a little bit. That a lot of what I learned from being at university was not necessarily through my tutorials, it was through the interactions that I had with social groups, and he was a big part of that. So that's you know, part of my memory of him. I would also say he was he had a kind of, we overlapped in terms of our sense of humor. We spent a lot of time kind of quoting Blackadder to each other, and you know, he had a kind of a sardonic wit, I would say, which kind of came out as you got to know him better. I think he could be a little shy, but that definitely, you know, that came out as one got to know him. I think people have talked, I saw, you know, the beautiful tributes to him through UCL. People have talked about his warmth, and I would echo that as well. And I do remember also, and I guess worth raising in this context, for our friend Gabriel Citron, when his mother passed away. I think Aaron was the one that drove a group of us down to London. You know, we spent some time at his parents' house. I think it was before or after, you know, going to the Shiva. So that was an important thing for him as well, to be there to console his friends. And I think the same for Miri and me when our mother passed away, as I recall. So you know, yeah, a big feature of the JSOC and of the Oxford landscape. Yeah, I mean, I hadn't been in touch with him so recently. I think the last time I had seen him was in the early days of the pandemic. We bumped into him and his parents in Cannons Park, because we kind of grew up in a similar area, and caught up with him a little bit then, but hadn't been in touch so recently. I was very shocked to hear the news, as I'm sure a lot of people on this Zoom were. So I do feel like, you know, it's a huge oversight on my part not to have been more assiduous in keeping in touch in that regard. But I have a lot of fond memories, and that, you know, very grateful to Aaron for his impact on my experience when I was at Oxford.
Thanks so much, Simon. Thank you, everyone. So sad to obviously this is a tragedy, and also sad to leave everyone again in this place of sadness. Just to pick up, what Simon said, I'd love to just start a text chain, people just to share more thoughts. Anyone else that may have missed the call, if they just want to add to like a WhatsApp group, and then maybe we can take that further to keep in touch with each other. It'd be nice to hear about other, Saratoga, in addition to tragedy, good things that happen, as I know that there have been and will be. And thank you, and just a blessing to Aaron's family for continued comfort and our comfort. They should be blessed among our whole community in their mourning. Okay, everyone. Bye-bye. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for organizing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you so much, and bye-bye, everyone.
Okay, bye. Yes, no. Oh, James, how are you? You back in England?
No, I'm in Israel.
Oh, so FF